So I was a team videographer. I shot everything that the team did. I shot practice, I shot games, I traveled with the team, I did creative content. I came up with ideas for the guys to do pretty much from April of 2018 to when I left in September of 2020. If you any video content, most of the video content that you would see on like Cowboy social media is content that I created.
Welcome to the Know Me Network. Your host, Chris Williams, and we interview business owners, entrepreneurs, and industry experts on a little bit more personal level. Today's guest with us is Carrie Lofton, video producer / author. And with that said, Carrie, introduce yourself and tell us how you got here.
Yeah, man. First of all, thank you for having me. I appreciate it, man. Appreciate the opportunity. It's awesome, man. But yeah, so like you said, a video producer, most recently as of April of this year, an author, something I've been wanting to do for quite a long time, man. That's been a dream in my heart for about 10 years, man, of wanting to write a book, and finally had the opportunity to do it, man. It's just been great. Based out here in Dallas, Texas, getting to do some fun things, man. Things are great right now.
Yeah. So like I said, it's a pleasure meeting you too. I've met you through a friend of mine, Jeremiah Joss, I saw him at your book signing. He was kind of taking some cool photos, and I thought, got to have this guy on the show. So I know you didn't become an author overnight, video producer overnight. So you're not from Dallas, is that right?
Yeah. So I'm from New Orleans originally. Yep.
Okay. Born and raised there. You born and raised, went to high school there. Where'd you go to high school?
I went to high school. So it's funny, my high school doesn't exist anymore, not under the name. So when I was going into my 8th grade year is the year that Hurricane Katrina happened. So my family and I, we moved to Atlanta. I went to Atlanta, this crazy private school. I was going to school with like Falcons and Braves players' kids, and it was just this crazy expensive private school. I was able to get a scholarship for a year. Moved back to Louisiana, my 9th grade year, starting high school, and everything was just, of course, you know, the city was just so different after Katrina. So high schools were crazy, everything. So I started going to this very small charter school. It was only 9th grade, and there were 100 kids. And it was like a UNO with University of New Orleans, like a charter school, and it was very small, and it was called so it's called UNO Early College High School. And the goal, it was like this thing where it's like you start taking college classes throughout your high school career so that you kind of start college on a head start when you graduate. So then we moved buildings my 10th grade year, and it became Thurgood Marshall Early College High School, a mouthful, which that school does not exist anymore because a couple of years after I graduated, they built a building, and it's now Lake Area New Tech Early College High School. These people, man, they're terrible at naming stuff. So I can't officially say I went to Lake Area New Tech, but it's the same school. Mine was just Thurgood Marshall because we were in the Thurgood Marshall building. So yeah, very small school. Like literally we were always the oldest kids there because when I was in 9th grade, like I said, there were no other grades. And then when we moved to 10th grade, they brought in new 9th graders. Then when we moved to 11th, they brought in new 9th and 10th graders. And then when we moved to 12th, we were the first graduating class. My graduating class was super small. I want to say it was like 70 or 80 kids. So I was in the top like 8 or 7, I think. Not very hard to do, but yeah, so it was a very, very interesting experience.
Yeah. So I think I heard you saying that you were like a 8th grader when Katrina hit.
Yep. I was going into my 8th grade year. Yep.
So it sounds like within 3 years there was a lot of moving back and forth. So talk to me about what Katrina was like. And then, you can't leave out this private school where, talk to me about that experience from, hey man, I experienced this storm. What did it mean to our family? What impact did it have on me? And now you've moved me to a completely foreign place.
Yeah, man, growing up for me was actually pretty tumultuous, man. Even before Katrina, we moved quite a bit. My mom didn't have the most money, not the greatest family life. And I mean, truth be told, man, I experienced homelessness several times as a kid, food insecurity, all those different things. And so when Katrina happened, moving to another state, I think I was so numb to it at one point. I mean, we were moving every year, every couple of years. And so I was always in middle school. Literally when Katrina happened, I was a week into my 8th grade year. And so in school, I was always the kid that I had really good grades, but I was a troublemaker. So like they would sit down and they would say like, man, like if you didn't have the grades you'd have, we'd like kick you out. And I wasn't doing anything like crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't graffitiing walls or anything. I think looking back on it, I just think I was kind of bored with the workload because I would always get my work done. And then I was the guy that wanted to make people laugh. And then that usually just ended up getting me in trouble. But man, Katrina, that move really saved my life because again, like I said, we went just a total God thing, the way that it happened. We moved to Atlanta. My mom is one of the smartest people I know. She's always, if she doesn't know something, she's going to jump online. She's going to figure it out. And so I have no idea how she like found these people who had a rental property in Atlanta. And they were like opening it up to people who were displaced from Katrina. So we pull up to this in this super nice neighborhood in Atlanta to this like 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom, huge house. And these people, and it's like stocked, the cabinets are stocked with food. The closets are stocked with clothes. Like, and they're like, you guys can stay here until you get on your feet. And so we were just like blown away. I have no idea how my mom found this. I'm so thankful that it wasn't like some crazy serial killer Lifetime movie situation, but just total God thing. And so I started going to this school. It was a school called McNair in Atlanta because it was the school that was closest to us. And bro, I hated this school. I was there for maybe 3 or 4 days and it felt like an eternity. It was just, I thought I was a troublemaker. These kids were real troublemakers. And I figured out very quickly that I did not belong there. And so my mom was just, talking to the lady. It was a couple by the name of Lee and Anissa Andrews. She ended up talking to this lady and she was like, I guess they were asking, how are y'all adjusting? And she knew I was having such a tough time with school and stuff like that. And so she was like, oh, well, my husband, I think he like sat on the board or something like that at this school called Woodward Academy. So she was like, maybe we can talk to some people, pull some strings. He has to test to get in, but if he tests, that'll be a good start. So we take the test. I'm not even thinking anything of it. I like blow the test out of the water. The lady who like conducted the test on like this Saturday morning was like, I'm calling the school right now. You guys need to go get his uniforms because he's starting like Monday morning and stuff like that. So it was a crazy experience. I mean, in this place rivals, I mean, if you get a chance to go look up Woodward Academy in College Park, Georgia, this place rivals like any college campus. I mean, it was pre-K through 12. And it was, I don't even want to put a number on how much it was a year. But yeah, man, that situation kind of saved my life because I went in and of course I had the grades and the smarts. But again, like I said, I was that kind of troublemaker guy. So I'll never forget the first week in class where it was like, we're doing our work or whatever. And I saw my first opportunity to be who I was, make a joke, whatever. And I remember I said something, I can't even remember what it was, but it was like something like back talk to the teacher. And when, like everybody, it was like a movie. Everybody like turned their chair and like looked at me. Like nobody laughed, like just stone faced. And then like one kid was like, nah, man, we don't do that here. And I was like, okay, cool. We don't do that here. So it kind of got me in line and let me know, man, like, look, bro, like, because here, the people I was running with in middle school in New Orleans, they would egg me on. They didn't care if I was getting in trouble and getting suspended and getting kicked out of class. They were laughing and they thought it was funny. These kids were like, nah, man, like, I'm thinking about my future. Like, I'm thinking about this or that. And so that really kind of helped me get my head on straight and take my academics seriously. And then when I moved back to New Orleans, so they could only give me a scholarship for a year. And so they were like, you can stay, but you got to pay all this money. So we moved back to New Orleans, but I moved back with something so valuable, which is knowing how important to take my education.
Yeah, people who send their kids to these preparatory schools, sending them to a preparatory school,
Yeah. Yeah.
So there is a difference in academics and discipline and all the things that, I didn't get in a public school setting, which I can imagine being in New Orleans in the public school setting there.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they're like ranked worst in the country or pretty low to the bottom. So yeah, it was tough, but it was something that, an experience that I cherish. And like I said, I think it brought me back to New Orleans with a different mindset,
Sure. Yeah. It's a different type of culture that you went from one flop to the other. You're talking about top echelon money type people at those sort of, College Park, if you will. It's a lot of money running around. So
yeah.
Interesting. So you left there, you were there for a year.
Mm-hmm.
You come back to New Orleans, and now I'm a 10th grader, right? Or I'm a ninth grader.
Ninth grade. Yep.
Okay. So you're a freshman. This is when you get into this different school there in New Orleans that, tell me about it. What was it like?
Man, it was interesting because like before Katrina, like, it was kind of like your typical, like, you go to school kind of in your district or whatever based off address. But like once Katrina happened and the city was just completely changed, you can go to school anywhere. You know what I'm saying? So you go on the other side of town, or it didn't matter. You didn't have to, play the, because of course people have done that before where they're like, they want to go to school in a better neighborhood. So they use a fake address or something like that. Like now it was just no rules. And so, that was, I think high school in a place like that was very interesting. But with me, it was a different experience because it was such a small school. It was 100 kids.
Was your other schools much bigger than this?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I'd always gone to big schools. The middle school I was going to before was a school called Riverdale before Katrina. It was huge. It had a middle school and a high school campus, football team, basketball team, baseball team, band, all of that stuff. And this school had nothing. We had no sports. We didn't even have a building. We were on UNO's campus. So they took like one floor in a building, and that was where we went to school. And, we had a makeshift cafeteria in the student center. And so it was really interesting because like we'd be having lunch and like these college kids are like sitting like 5 tables away from us. It was just, and they'd be making fun of us because of our goofy uniforms that we had on. We had to wear these big bright red ties, and like, it was a very interesting situation. And I look back on it and I do wish I had a more traditional high school experience, going to football games. I played the trumpet all throughout middle school. I was to the point where I was like, I was first and second chair in trumpet. I almost went to this, really prominent creative arts school in Louisiana. I just wish like I would have pushed to do something like that, to go to a school where I remember my mom wanted me to go to Newman, which was the school that Peyton and Eli Manning graduated from, and Odell. Like if I would have, I think about it, like if I would have gone there, so like Odell's like maybe 1 or 2 years younger than me, like I probably would have played football with Odell in high school. You know what I mean? Like things like that, where it's like, I didn't have that experience. I was just it was just go to school and go home, hang out with friends. And so it was tough. It was a really tough experience being in school and being so like shielded from what you feel like a high school experience should be.
So is it just you and your mom, or do you have any brothers and sisters?
I do have a sister. I have a brother who passed away when I was younger. I was 8. He was 10 years old. And then I have a sister. She's 10 years older than me. And then my dad wasn't present.
Okay, gotcha. So mom's kind of the glue that held everything together. And so sounds like it might have been a rough time, but you might have gotten some really neat things from this small school.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
minus
man.
the football games, there might be
Yeah.
some relationships and some real education that you might have gotten.
Yeah. I always think back because I think that there's been a lot of like those kind of pivotal moments in my life that I used to spend when I was younger, when I was 22, 23, and really kind of getting into adulthood. I used to spend a lot of time thinking of, man, what if I went left instead of right? What if I had stayed in Atlanta and stayed around all those people? Would I be, making 350K a year at some, investment firm, or would I do this, or would I have that? Or, I mean, I turned down a full ride scholarship to a college in New Orleans to follow uh, one of my friends. Like, we're like, yo, we're gonna go here, like for all the wrong reasons, to go to another school that was giving me a partial scholarship. So I think about that all the time, of like, because me not being able to afford college anymore, losing a lot of scholarships and grants, that played a role in me dropping out. And so I always, I would think, I'd be like, yo, what would happen if, I went and got a full ride scholarship? Would I have my college degree at that point? Would I be doing something different? So I used to spend a lot of time thinking about the what ifs, but when I just came to realize that, man, like God's plan always prevails in my life. I needed to do that. You know what I'm saying? That might have been what I wanted to do, but what the path that I took was what he wanted me to be. And now where I am today, I wouldn't change any of it. You know what I mean? Because it got me to where he wanted to be. And if I would have done the things that I wanted to do, then that's no longer really God's plan for our life. That's me kind of living my own will.
Yeah, that's a word there. Hey man, kind of like regardless of our decisions, we're going to Nineveh, whether through the belly of a whale or on our own 2 feet,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. I like that. I like that.
So interesting, man. And did you stay and graduate from this UNO campus school?
Yep. I graduated in 2010.
Okay. And do you keep up with any of your homeboys from still there? Do you
Yeah,
guys?
man. I the first two guys I met are still good friends of mine. They're still back in New Orleans, and one of them has a family now, and he's got a couple kids, which is cool. I just, but we talk, I make sure I reach out every year at least once or twice. We don't talk as much or hang out as much because they're in New Orleans, and I really never get a chance to go back too much, but they're still super solid, and I still feel their love and support. But yeah, the first two guys I met one at like an orientation event. When we were walking up, we both got lost. And then another guy like literally walking in on the first day and is just like, what's up? What's up? So those are my guys, man. Shout out to Dominic and Debos.
That's cool. Listen, you mentioned your sister, you mentioned your mom. Where are they?
So yeah, my mom actually lives like a mile down the road from me. She moved to Texas. I forget the timing, like maybe it was less than a year after I moved. So I moved in 2014.
Okay.
I actually met my wife on Twitter. My wife is from New Orleans as well, but her family moved to Dallas after Hurricane Katrina, and then they stayed here. And so she's been here, but she would go back and forth to New Orleans. And so, because she still has family out there. And so we worked in the same mall, literally. So I worked at the Apple store. There was this little clothing store, the mall entrance, and then there was the Abercrombie and Fitch where she worked at. We worked in the same mall because she would go back during the summers and work and stay with family and stuff. Never ran into each other. I see a girl that I went to college with, retweet her on Twitter. I like what I see. I go follow her. She follows me back. We do the whole kind of flirting on the timeline thing. Then eventually I slide in the DMs. We meet. And so then, we do the long distance dating thing or whatever. And she, I see her when she comes to visit. But then like that's how I got to Dallas, because when we got engaged, I came out to Dallas. I fell in love with Dallas. I saw the opportunity here. And so I moved here. And then my mom moved probably like less than a year after us, just because, again, man, New Orleans is a great city to visit, but not always a whole lot going on. It's a hard city to make it in, especially like I said, after Katrina, man, the crime has just gotten so bad, and it's just opportunities and work and all that stuff. So she was kind of ready for a fresh start too. And again, going back to my point of us going to Atlanta for Katrina, I think that was the seed that we knew we were leaving when I came back. but it was that seed of, man, there's more out there for me. Like, this is not it. This is, so I knew I always kind of had that bug afterwards. Like, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to do something different. So yeah, that's that. My sister's still back in Louisiana with her husband. We don't talk too often, but that's that, man.
Yeah, she's a decade older than you. My brother's right at 8 years older. So there's a lot of life in between there,
Yeah, seriously. Yep.
Yeah. So 2014, you moved to Dallas. What year did you graduate high school?
2010.
Okay, so between then, you're kind of trying to figure out what's next move, and then you're meeting your wife in there, kind of bringing her along, and then what was the catalyst that really said, "Hey, I'm going to Dallas"? Was it I got engaged?
Yeah. So I was going through a really tough patch. I mean, like, really 2010 to like 12 was super tumultuous for me. I was in a like a relationship in high school that didn't end well, and it just kind of spiraled me into a little bit of a depression. And so I just kind of went to college, and I just kind of put my head down, and I just worked. And I was working like 40, 50 hours. And then I was going to school. So I'd go to school, go to class. I get out of class at about 12 o'clock, and then go and I just work from 1 to 10. And that was my everyday, you know what I'm saying? And so I did that for about like a year, maybe a year and a half. I was only in college for like 3 semesters. Before I ended up dropping out. And the reason why I dropped out is, like I said, financially, because partly because of the depression, my grades were slipping, but like financially as well. I had a lot of grants. Like I said, I was going to a private university. I turned down a full ride scholarship. And so I was able to get minimal student loans because I had partial scholarship. But then I also had like all these like grants because of my grades. I had like this free money. And so like every semester, like the grants were getting smaller and smaller because this was a private university. They didn't have to accept some of this money anymore. And so like I'd go, like my first, I think I got like a refund check for like $500. I'm like, cool, great. Like, as long as I don't have to pay anything. Then I think like my next semester, it's like, oh, now you're not getting anything. And then it was like my third semester was like, now you owe $1,500, because it's like, and I'm like, well, what the heck is going on? And they're like, well, like, we don't accept this grant anymore. Or this grant was only for the first semester. And so the free money was drying up. And so I ultimately ended up dropping out and just kind of put my head down at work just to kind of like figure out what the next step was, man. And video really just kind of fell in my lap at that moment, because I wasn't going to school for video. It wasn't on my mind. I was going to school for computer science. Like, so when I dropped out, that was kind of like, all right, well, I think I'm going to pick this up.
So, hey man, I'm in a bad spot. And does an iPhone fall in your lap? Like, how do you get introduced to maybe even recreate yourself, if you will, at that moment?
Yeah. So being at the Apple store, this was back in, like I said, 2010, 2011, New Orleans was nicknamed Hollywood South because they were doing all of these like it was they were dang near paying you to make a movie down there. So there was all these like big time productions, a lot of movies being shot in New Orleans at the time. And so me being working at the only Apple store in the city, that was the place that they'd come. I mean, they'd come in and buy like boxes and boxes of hard drives or like laptops or computers. I saw tons of actors. And so my job was to sell these people stuff. And so, of course, just like in conversation, because Apple, as you know, is a different retail experience. So it's not just, oh, hey, you need 50 hard drives. Great, whatever. It's, hey, well, what do you do, man? Like, what is this for? What are you working on? That sort of stuff. So it kind of put that like, man, this is kind of super interesting. And I looking back, I think as a kid, I always kind of had that, because my favorite part of the movies when I'd watch a VHS tape was not the movie, but like either the beginning or the end when they would put the behind the scenes on it. And I would always be super drawn to that. Like sometimes I'd fast forward through the movie just to watch, like, and I find that it was like I was always drawn to like production for some reason and being excited to see the cameras and the lights. And so then we had some guys that were like on staff as like, and they were like photographers and videographers and stuff like that. So I was like, it was just kind of starting to create that itch. And I knew a lot of friends in like the music industry because I did music in high school. So I would hang out with a lot of these guys. And so I remember I had these two guys who did music, and one day I just kind of tossed it out when we were in the studio hanging around. I was like, hey guys, I think I want to start shooting like music videos. I was like, yeah, y'all think I could like shoot one for y'all? And they were like, yeah, cool. And so I was like, all right, like now I got my first client. Like it's free, but I got my first client. And so I went on Craigslist. I found an iPad. I mean, I found a camera. Like it was like, I didn't even know. I asked like one of the guys I work with, like, what should I buy? I want to get in the video. So he told me this cheap camera. It was like maybe $500. And so I didn't really have too much money at the time. And I was like, all right, cool. I had this iPad that I had bought. I got like a discounted iPad. So I sold my iPad on Craigslist for like $350. Bought the camera, scraped up the rest of the money, bought the camera, and then just started figuring out how to use it. I jumped on YouTube and started looking at how to figure out the settings and started shooting. And then within like probably like a week or two, because I had knew so many friends in the music industry, I get a call that Cash Money and Lil Wayne were giving turkeys out for Thanksgiving, and did I want to come take some photos and video? And I was like, yes. And so I'm like in the car, like Lil Wayne's tour bus is 10 feet away. I'm in the car Googling, how do I make my image not so bright on my camera? Because everything is like blown out and I don't know what ISO or shutter speed or any of this stuff is. And so after like I met one of like Lil Wayne's artists, and they were like, man, we need videos, blah, 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 blah. And it was just this day of like, I remember getting in the car being like, yo, if I can do this in 2 weeks without knowing what the heck I'm doing and be in these kind of rooms and positions, what would happen if I put some effort and some energy, if I really learned my craft and I dedicated it to it? And so, man, that happened in probably, 2011, 2012. And I've been blessed to say that I haven't done anything but work behind the camera since then.
Yeah, man, that's a crazy story. So, I mean, talk about kind of fake it till you make it a little bit,
Yeah.
You were telling people what you could do, and I'm flying the plane while I'm putting it together, right?
Absolutely. That's one of my favorite sayings. I say that to people all the time.
Yeah, that's really neat. What was it like shooting that video? And what kind of pressure did you feel given, like, I don't know what I'm doing,
In a way, man, I wish I could go back to that sometimes, man. That's kind of like the basis. So the name of my company is Inspired Dreams. And then I kind of have like an aside from that, which is it's for the dreamers. But the logo is like a little boy holding on to these balloons, and the balloons are kind of taking them off into the air. And in a way, I feel like over the years, I've taken myself too serious. You know what I'm saying? As you get bigger projects, bigger clients, as money is starting to get interjected, a lot of money, you start to be an adult about the creative process. You're thinking about all these different things, and there's performance anxiety. But I think back to that, like, 19-year-old kid that had a camera, picked up a camera and had a dream. And I was just having fun. So there really wasn't any pressure, because it was just like, man, like I'm so new in this, I got nothing to lose. You know what I'm saying? Now everything, you get the Emmys, you get the accolades, you get the clients, you get the budget. Now you're thinking about all the stuff you have to lose, and that impedes on the creative process. So for me, it was very freeing back then. And I look back as technically unsound as my work was. I look back and I feel the passion in the heart and the soul. And so for me, that's something that it's a work now that I make sure that even though I have a lot more at stake now, that I'm making sure that that little 19-year-old kid still has a say so in the projects that I'm doing.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. And, as you've kind of gotten yourself into creating this book, talk to us about, you did this on your own in the beginning. It looks like you maybe moved to Dallas, and, where'd you get some of this practice from here in Dallas?
Yeah, man. So when I moved to Dallas, man, I didn't have anything. Like I said, I was going through a really tough time because I was doing videos in New Orleans, but I wasn't getting paid for them. I hadn't learned how to get paid. I was just running around, doing everything for everybody. And that's probably why everybody wanted to work with me, because it was like, let's call this guy, he'll do it for free. And I was just so happy to be creating and stuff like that. So I was going through, again, a period of homelessness in New Orleans at the time, around 2014. I was really, really struggling. And my wife, Bree, was really helping me through some of this stuff. And so I was just like, hey, like, I want to, like, let's kind of get married. Let's figure this out together. I knew I had more opportunities in Dallas. I was working for a dance competition at the time as their videographer and traveling. So I was making a little bit of money, but it wasn't anything super crazy or whatever. But I just knew like there was more opportunity in Dallas. So when we got engaged in July 2014, I moved. We got engaged June of 2014. I moved in July 2014. And man, all I had to my name was like literally like a trash bag of clothes and like one little 32-inch television from like my mom's bedroom. Like, that's it. And so, but I knew like God was calling me there. You know what I'm saying? Like, I knew that was the place that he had for me. I didn't know what was in store, but I knew I was going to figure it out. And so I get there, and man, I just start applying to places like crazy and just start trying to find like video work. And I ended up finding a church here in Dallas that hired me full-time as a videographer. And it was, so I started there in August of 2014. And that was like my school. That was like my film school. That was where I took the raw, sitting in the car, figuring out how to work my camera on shoots, to I was able to go into that environment with some people who had years in the industry that had real production experience. And I could see how to do things. I could see how to set up shoots. I could see how to talk to talent. I could see how to edit. I could see how to use industry standard programs. And so I spent 4 years at the church, just kind of learning from everybody around me, and taking my raw talent and pairing it up with the actual to be technically sound.
Yeah, and from my experience, I see you out at Fellowship Church. That's not a small production church either.
Yeah, no, I mean, we were shooting on like $60,000 cameras, and like we were producing the pastor was on Netflix at one point, so we were producing some really, really high end content.
Yeah, there's a lot of high end stuff out that way for sure. So
yeah,
that was really impactful. So I'm guessing you meet some contacts here in Dallas, maybe through the church, maybe through wherever. And what happens next?
Man, so around 2018, I kind of started to get that itch that I wanted to do something different. And so I didn't really know what. I knew I still wanted to do video. I just knew I was ready to because the hard part about the church was coming in so raw. They were very aware, and I had grown so much in that 4 years, but I just feel like personally, it was really hard to get them to not see me as that raw kid that came in at that point. It was, so as I started to grow, I don't feel like my responsibilities grew, even though I knew I was putting out much different work. So unfortunately, in situations like that, it's harder to get people to respect you when they know where you've come from, versus like now, if I go and I start on a fresh page with some new company, they don't know where I started from. They just see the work that I'm doing now. So I put together a reel, and I started to just kind of look out and see what was next, what I wanted to do next. And so I didn't set out to work for the Cowboys. Truth be told, I was an Eagles fan, gigantic Eagles fan. But the opportunity, as I would just come home every day and just search Indeed or Google or whatever, I wish I could say, I think people ask me like, oh man, like, how'd you get to the Cowboys? I think, they're expecting for me to say, yeah, I met Jerry in a bar one night and we were talking and I told him I did video and he signed me to a contract or whatever. It didn't happen that way. I found it on Google. Like, I just Googled video jobs in Dallas and it popped up. So I saw it and I just was like, man, that's kind of cool or whatever. Like, I had no like expectations, again, because I wasn't like this huge Cowboys fan of like, oh, I gotta work for America's team. I was like, truth be told, as an Eagles fan, I kind of hate the Cowboys. And so I applied, didn't really know what to expect of it because I had been applying to other stuff and just really hadn't been hearing back. And I think I got a call like within the next like day or two. And they were like, yeah, like, we really like your work. Can you come in for like for an interview or whatever? I was like, yes, let's do it. And so I went in and man, that was just such a crazy process, because I want to say it took like 2 months. Because yeah, like it was like 2 months, because I think it was like we had our initial conversation in like February, and then I got hired in like April. My first week was like the draft in April, so it took a minute, but yeah, man, it was crazy process. Just a lot of waiting, but yeah, that just kind of, again, man, it's just I just look back at my story, and that's how I know God's got his fingerprints on it, because every big thing, much like the Lil Wayne thing, and even like me getting into videography and photography, it's like it all just kind of like fell in my lap. Like when I look back at the Cowboy situation, like it literally just kind of like fell in my lap. So yeah, then I was able to do that for a couple seasons, and then that just kind of blew the doors off of everything.
Yeah, it kind of helped you see some value that you have. Not everybody gets to work for the Cowboys. So, tell the people out there, man, this was cool. This was awesome. Kind of walk them through what it was like and some of the jobs that you would do.
Yeah, man. So I walked in and it was crazy because, when I got there, they were they did social content, but it seemed like a lot of the primary focus was like on like broadcast content. So they really kind of had a need for somebody to kind of fill that role to do like creative social content. So they didn't really impede me on a lot of things that I wanted to do. If I wanted to, and I think, I remember when I sat down in my interview with the guy who was my boss, he said, man, he's like, your stuff is great. He's like, but you have no sports experience. And I was like, yeah, I don't. I said, but I can tell you that, number one, I have a perspective of a fan. I said, this is the kind of content that I would want to see as a fan. I'm a huge football fan. And I said, you can put me in the room with anybody. I don't care what experience they have. They're not going to outwork me. I said, is it going to take me a little bit of a learning curve to learn how to shoot football? Absolutely. I said, but I'll get it. And so I really do feel like that conversation was a game changer in helping me get that position. But yeah, man, they just, whatever I wanted to do, whether, I got to basically, so I was a team videographer. I shot everything that the team did. I shot practice, I shot games, I traveled with the team. I did creative content. I came up with ideas for the guys to do pretty much from April of 2018 to when I left in September of 2020. If you, any video content, most of the video content that you would see on like Cowboy social media is content that I created, either ideated or shot, edited, whatever. So it was just really, really fun, and getting to and that ended up being what they perceived as a weakness ended up being my biggest strength there, because one of the things I didn't want to do was what other sports teams were doing. So I pulled examples from everywhere, because I wasn't a guy that came from a sports team where I could say, hey, this is how we did it at the Jets, or hey, this is how we did it at the Falcons. And now I'm just copying it. I'm just like, yo, this is what I did. I shot this music video a couple years ago. This is what I did. Or I shot this. And it's like, it just gave us, I felt like it gave the team and the content a really, really fresh perspective, man. And then I think like I was able to really build relationships with a lot of the guys, some of them that really last to this day, because I came in, and I'm not being the sports media guy, and I'm not knocking anybody that is, but I'm coming in, and I want to interject their personality. I want to interject their culture. I want to tell their story more than just about what they do on the field, but who they are. I want the fans to learn who they are and love them for who they are, not just for the interception they caught, or the touchdown they caught, or the sack they got. And so that drove a lot of what I did, man. But really, really, really super fun job. I mean, to this day, I miss it. I'm happy with what I'm doing, but man, like, there's just no way to put it in words how it could feel standing on the edge of the sideline. Number one, it's ruined watching football for me at home, because, I don't know how you go from, like, you could have the biggest TV, the most clarity, but just standing on that sideline when it kicks off, or when a touchdown happens or whatever. So it really, really, I mean, it's just a amazing experience to have in a lifetime.
Sure, man. I totally what you mean. You can see my Aggie helmet back here. I was a student manager for the Ags back in the Francione days. So,
Mm-hmm.
I think what you're basically saying is it's different when you're actually a part of the team. So
Absolutely.
and that's really what it is. Hey man, I'm actually a part of this, and getting to, be around the spirit, the attitude of the coaches, just all the whole thing makes you really feel like you're a part of it.
Absolutely.
So I totally get that.
Absolutely, man.
Next question for you is, tell me about like some top memories. If you had to look back and you want to tell your kids one day, hey man, this and this and this would be the cool things that I'd want to tell you.
Yeah, definitely my first time, like I'd say like that draft, my first weekend. I mean, because it was just like my job was to go there, film the draft, and then if our first round pick was there, basically from the moment he got the call to like his first like 48 hours as a Dallas Cowboy. So first round pick ended up being there, and so I just remember like standing there as like, and that was the year like Baker Mayfield went number 1. And so I just remember just standing there when that pick happened and just like taking it all in of like this crazy moment. Everybody's like freaking out because nobody expected Baker to go number 1. They thought something else would happen. And then just taking it all in and just realizing like, yo, man, like I would be on my couch right now watching this, you know what I'm saying? Or at a sports bar somewhere, like watching this. And then like, when it's like, okay, cool, yeah, we're about to pick. Like that was a year Leighton Vander Esch got picked. So they were like, yeah, they're picking Leighton. So like, here, you walk through this green room. Here, you go stand, like you're right there. You're like, I'm like right there, like as he's talking to Jerry on the phone. It's just like, it's happening so quick, but it's just like, yo, this is a crazy experience. You know what I mean? And so that's definitely one, man. Definitely like, I remember even just like, going to all the games, not even one particular, but just going to all the games, going to the different stadiums, getting to do what I do, seeing the world, man, hanging out with these guys. Man, it's just overall, it's just been really great. And then of course, like winning Emmys, man, and being able to be validated for my work. Because like you said, man, I didn't touch too much on it, but really it really did get pretty hot and heavy at the church at the point to where it was like, okay, cool. Like now I feel like not only am my work not being respected, but I feel like I'm kind of actively being put down. I feel like I'm kind of actively being held back. So there was a confidence issue when I started working for the Cowboys, and when they gave me so much freedom and so much respect, I was like, wow, you guys want me to take on this project by myself? You don't want to hold my hand? And it's not that I didn't think that I could do it. It was just being so used to being in a situation to where I was chained and caged up. And so, man, just being able to win that Emmy, going on stage and accept it and watch, like just have one of the highest accolades for my work. I mean, it's a feeling that you can't describe.
Well, talk about that real quick. What did you win? Not one Emmy, right? But 2 Emmys for. Yeah. And, talk about that experience. Well, how did it make you feel?
Yeah, man. So I won one in 2019, which is my second year. So I hadn't been there long because the Emmys are usually like in July or August. So I hadn't been there long enough in my first year to win one. But the first year I was eligible. So yeah, we did this playoff project with Errol Spence Jr., the boxer from Dallas, where the saying for that year was "Finish this fight." That was Coach Garrett saying to the players. And so I wrote and shot this really cool piece about like, and basically I was like, what would happen, if we took this fight thing literal? So we went and we filmed like Errol Spence training, and we intercut that kind of like training footage of a real boxer in with like plays, and we did this really dope script. And so it was just really, I mean, it just hyped people up for the playoffs. And so we submitted that won the Emmy the first year. So I won it as, basically for my work on that. And then the next year was actually the year that I left the Cowboys. So I won it. Like I left, and then like 2 weeks later, the Emmys were going on, and I won that for editing. So basically I submitted a reel of not one project, but just all my kind of best projects. And then, basically on the guise of like editing. And so I was able to win one for that. So it's great because again, it's one of those things where it's like, number one, just here's a project, the Errol Spence project. Here's something that started in my mind, and it resonated with people so much so to where they felt like it was award worthy. And then same thing too with like the editing one. That one's probably even more special to me because editing something that I'm super hard on myself. And when people talk to me, I'm like, I'm not a good editor. I'm like, and they're like, what? No, read that. Every day I walk past in my office, they're sitting on the shelf. I have to walk past something that says Carrie Lofton is an Emmy Award winning editor. So that it brings a different level of confidence when you're sitting down to a project, even if it's something, because I tell people all the time, editing video is like putting together 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle, but you don't have the box top to tell you what it's supposed to look like. You got all these pieces and you have everything that you're trying to shuffle together and fit together. And of course you do your planning and your shot list and all of that stuff, but there's nothing that can prepare you for looking at a blank timeline. And it's up to you to create this imagery and create this world and create this experience for the viewer. So it's very daunting, but man, that was just something for me that just was like, man, it just really, not that I needed that validation because my validation comes from God, but it's nice to be recognized in this world for your work and be awarded for it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And, I think it's interesting, the transition from going from, maybe not appreciated, not respected, to the good Lord giving you something completely opposite in, hey, freedom, creativity, letting those creative juices flowing, and just realizing what that ended up doing for you. So maybe a good thing that the good Lord kind of had his hand on you and then let you go, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. And I tell people all the time, like, if I could change my experience at the previous job, I wouldn't, because I think a lot of the things that humility that I was able to learn, those feelings of being at the bottom, that feeling of feeling unappreciated and undervalued. I think had I not had those experiences, then things like winning Emmys or people singing my praises or whatever like that, like, I think that would have ended up destroying me. You know what I mean? I think I might have, who knows? I might have grew a big ego, or I might have became a jerk to people, or I might have started trusting in my own abilities. So I look at that and I'm thankful for those lessons that I learned, because though I've had a lot of experiences where it feels like I'm on top, I know that the bottom's not far. You know what I mean? And so just kind of keeping that in the forefront of my mind, I feel like really help shape my personality now that I'm able to be blessed to experience some of the, a lot of the wins that I'm experiencing.
Yeah. And your wife's gotten a chance to walk along with all this too. What would she say about you and where you've been from to this day?
Man, I try not to tear up because it's, man, like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for her. Like her prayers and just being able to see me through really, 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 really dark seasons. Man, I would not be able to stand here today, like 100%.
Yeah, and you guys have been together since you were, for a long time. It seems like you're like a 30-year-old guy now, and it sounds like you met at like 19.
Yeah. So we've been together 10 years, been married 8 years. So it's she's seen it all, man. She saw me when I had nothing, and she was the one that when I couldn't see the next day, she saw where I am now back then. She was able to make that investment. She would take her school money or whatever little money she was making, she put it in my account. She said, go do what you need to do. Go take care of what you need to take care of. Go get a haircut when I couldn't do it. So just that sort of investment in me, not, knowing that you won't always be here. This is what God has for you. And I'm going to pray you through that, man. Like I'm telling you, that's invaluable. It's invaluable.
That's it's called true love, right? That's what we're all called to do, right? So absolutely. That's amazing. Sounds like you got a good, godly woman, and I hope that everybody gets that. So she's been your partner through this whole thing, and I'm trying to figure out. So you're now parting with the Cowboys. You just went through the Corona. Was that part of the parting with the Cowboys? How did that affect it all? And Just walk me through just that Corona part and then into the next season.
Yeah, man, Corona was crazy because, I was working on this off-season project, this documentary with the scouts. And so we had this big elaborate plan. We had just finished up. We had went to the Senior Bowl with them in January, like January, February. And we were going, so we had plans to go to the Senior Bowl, the Combine in Indianapolis, the draft. Like we were documenting everything that goes into them building their draft board. And so we were in Indianapolis when kind of the rumblings of COVID started happening. We were like, oh, there's this new virus and it's running through China and all of this stuff. And we were like, okay, cool. Like we're not thinking anything of it. And now looking back, like when we were getting on the plane to go to the Combine, which was February, March, I think. Like there were people on the plane with masks, but of course, like that's some people's culture that when they're there, that's a courtesy thing that they wear a mask. I mean, we saw people with masks years ago, but that was like, if you're sick, as a courtesy to other people, you wear a mask. And so I saw him on the plane with masks, but didn't think too much of it. We go there, we spend a few days at the Combine, we film, come back, and like all hell just breaks loose. Like the offices are shut down now, like everybody stay home. And so it really affected my job because everything was about getting content with the players. Now you're not allowed to be around the players. There's all these tiers. You got to get tested every day. You can come in the building, but you can't be over here. You can't be over there. You got to wear a mask. You got to stand 1,000 feet away. You got to do this. You got to do that. And so it really took its toll on like my job, my creative process. There were some days where like, because of the way that the Cowboys organization is ran, is that I wouldn't even have access to practice because there was a limited number of people and somebody more important needed that access than me, you know what I mean, to go. And so there'd be days where it's like, oh yeah, like I wouldn't know what I was doing until the day of, you know what I mean? Where it's like, I might get a call and say, hey, such and such needs your access at practice. You stay home. Well, what are we going to do about content? Don't worry about that. You know what I mean? So it became a really, really tough situation. And so in that time, I met DeMarcus Ware back in January. I did this video. I did these travel videos for the Cowboys when they were going to away games. And like, it was kind of rinse and repeat every week. But one week I just decided to get a little saucy and do something different. And so I did this crazy edit. And so one of my best friends, she was there at the time. She ran the social. Her name's Dana. She, of course, was in charge of all the accounts. And she said, hey, like when we posted the video, she was like, yo, DeMarcus Ware just DM'd the Cowboys account and said, like, who did this video? Do you want me to give him your name? And I was like, yeah. So she sent him my page. He came and he followed me and he connected. He's like, yo, like, and then like a week later, he was at the game, like a game. So this was like in like December-ish or whatever. And so I met him at the game and I met like his assistant. And, I was like, they were like, yo, we want to connect with you or whatever. So I meet him. First time I meet him, he's like, man, like, I like people to be all in. He's like, I want you to come work for me. And I was like, I kind of like laughed because I was like, all right, dude, like we just met, whatever, like that. But like, that's totally his personality. So we kind of start talking about like doing some stuff and he's telling me all the needs that he has. And I'm like, cool. Like, don't really want to leave where I'm at right now, but like, I'll definitely help you make some money on the side. So that kind of just went quiet for a little bit. And then when COVID hit, it just kind of created this like perfect opportunity because again, here I am, I can't even get in the building. I can't do work. Like there's nothing for me to do. And then like DeMarcus would call and, he'd be like, hey man, what you doing on Saturday or whatever? What you doing on this? And I'm like, nothing, man. Like, and so him and I were able to shoot, in a, more safe environment or whatever. We go to a park or whatever. And so like, we just started building up work over the weekends of like, I'm shooting because he was doing like fitness content. He was opening up a gym. And then he was also trying to like build like his personal brand. And so we did that for like a few months, the whole summer. And then comes like September, like right before the season's about to start. Again, I'm not shooting preseason games or anything like that, like anything. And he's like, hey man, he's like, we've done enough work. And he's like, I have enough to justify, like, I'd like to hire you full time. So I was like, oof. So for me, it just kind of came down to, I'm looking at, man, the Cowboys, my role is severely hindered. And then I have this opportunity where I could have because he was giving me the keys to the kingdom to take over his content. No creative holes, no boundaries, no anything. So I was like, yeah. And then of course the money aspect. I mean, he's, upping my salary quite a bit. So I was like, yeah, let's do this. So I decided it was time, but also, I had been talking to him because I had been feeling that inkling of wanting to start my own company and do my own thing. And so he knew that. And he was kind of like, his thing was like, hey man, I want to help you get to that point. So like this role is kind of for you to start to feel what that feels like to do your own thing. So it's kind of like a hybrid type of thing. So it was like the perfect storm, man. So yeah, I put my 2 weeks in, and I was thankful, because the thing about the Cowboys is it's a great opportunity, but and this is no knock on them, it's not a great organization to grow within. I wasn't going to spend the next 30 years and become the director of content or anything like that. I was just I could have been there for 15, 20 years and I probably would have been doing the same thing. And so for me, I wanted more. So you get the 2 years, it's on your resume now, you've got that experience, you've got those relationships. It's really kind of worth more to you on your resume than it is, on your business card, essentially. And so it was enough for me to where like, okay, cool, I've done enough. I've put my name out there, won a couple Emmys, met a few people. Now let's go out here and let's use that to our advantage.
Yeah, interesting. Talk about DeMarcus Ware. From what I've seen, I'll tell you what I've seen. Guy looks like a stand-up dude, high integrity guy. What was it like getting to know him? Sounds like you didn't just get to know him as a marketing guy, but sounds like he invested in you.
Yeah, man, we became good friends, and I learned a lot from him business-wise. I learned a lot from him just creatively, and just going from working with the team and trying to deal with a bunch of different personalities to learning how to deal with one personality and what works and what doesn't work. So yeah, it was great, really stand-up dude. Man, just a lot of energy, a lot of good ideas. He's somebody that's very interested in production. So he not only just kind of stands in front of the camera and just says, do what you want me, but he kind of has that creative input. He has a vision for what he wants and what he was trying to do. And so it was a really good experience getting to kind of work with him for a year and really just take the reins and run with his content.
Cool. Also gave you good resume stuff too.
Absolutely.
I'm curious now. So as I unpack this story, I hear of a 20-year-old young man who is maybe thinking about writing a book one day, kind of got some rumblings in his heart about what that might look like. Throughout this timeline here, how serious did the book become, and when did you actually start putting pen to paper?
Man, it came together like lightning. So went back during the pandemic. Like I didn't say, okay, because I've tried to like sit out and write a book several times and get 1 chapter, 2 chapter, couple pages, and then it just kind of dies. And so I was like, during the like pandemic, like where everybody was like stuck at home, I did this like Instagram live kind of like what we're doing here, where it's like, hey, you got content, I got content, let's bleed our markets together. I kind of pull on some of your followers, you pull on some of my followers. So I met this girl, she was doing kind of content, social stuff. She's like, let's do an Instagram live collaboration. So I was like, great. She's like, what do you want to talk about? I was like, no idea. So I don't know, I just was kind of kicking the tire at home, and I was like, what if we talked about like pricing for creatives? I said, everybody always talks about pricing, we're always complaining about it, everybody struggles with it, let's talk about pricing. She's like, cool, let's do it. So we did this Instagram live, and it like blew up. Like we didn't have a ton of people that was actually on it, but because like when you can post it to your feed, and so many people went back and watched it, and I was getting so many DMs about like, man, this is great information, thank you. So I was like, cool, I didn't really think anything of it. Well, I inadvertently became the money guy in a lot of people's minds, apparently, because I started getting so many DMs of like, hey, I got this project coming up, how would you price this? Or, hey, what should I be charging for this photo shoot? Or, hey, what should I be charging for this video shoot? Or, hey, this job offered me this job, what should I be charging for this? Like, and so I was just like, people are really like pulling on me, and they like want to hear what I have to say about the subject. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, all right. So it got to a point to where I was like, man, here's what I'm gonna do. I said, I'm gonna set out. I said, I'm gonna write like a little PDF ebook, like a little guide to that I could just, when people DM me, instead of having to write the same thing over and over again, I'm just gonna send them, say, hey, I got a PDF e-guide, go download it. It has all the information. Sat down to start writing, and I very quickly ended up with like 8,000 or 9,000 words. And I was like, okay, cool. So I was talking to a friend of mine. Her name's Kelsey. She works in sports too. And I was like, yo, Kels, I was like, I think, like I said, I've always wanted to write a book. I said, I think I got the makings of like my first book. I said, I think I can go here. I said, I can add a little more meat. I said, and I could, I said, I could turn this into something. And she's like, go for it. Why not? So I was like, okay, cool. So my wife and I, this is 2022 now. So my wife and I, we had a trip. We went to Cabo in March, February, March, whatever. And I said, okay, cool. Well, my birthday's coming up April 28th. I said, I'm going to try to get this book. I said, I'm going to try to launch this book on my birthday. So we go to Cabo, and I literally just sit at the pool every day with my iPad and my margaritas, and I'm just typing away, and I'm just really kind of getting this thing. And that was probably that was like, a week maybe of writing. Came back, really kind of put a lot more legs to it, and was able. So really, man, just to answer your question in a really long way, man, this whole book came together in like less than 2 months.
Wow.
Like writing, cover, rollout plan, release party, like 2 months.
Wow. So tell us, you got a book. Let us see it. Tell us about the book.
Yeah, man. So Money Talks, How to Confidently Price Your Work. This is really, a culmination. I'm very passionate about it because everybody's got their thoughts. You got people who are like value-based pricing versus, hourly versus day rates versus all these different things. But like, I'm really passionate and confident about this because this is what has made me successful. You know what I mean? This is what is being applied every day in my life. This is what I use every time I sit down and a client reaches out to me, or I'm discussing a project with somebody. Like, this is me. This is what works for me. And I mean, I've been able to, in just under a year of being full-time, because like I said, I left DeMarcus in July of last year, and I had always done freelance on the side, but being full-time for a year, I mean, over 6 figures in a year, that's not easy to do. So obviously it works. And that was something that I held on to because there was a lot of anxiety writing this book. He was like, well, you don't know everything, or who's going to want to listen to you, or, yeah, you got a few DMs, but is this really worth your time of putting together a book? But then I look at everything that I've done, and I have to say, yeah, man, like, it's okay to be proud of that. It's okay to share that information and be confident in what you're sharing. So, man, this is a dream come true for me. Seriously.
Sure. How do you compare, becoming an author as opposed to some of the other accolades that you've got along the way?
Man, it's so crazy, man. It's so different. It's such a different experience, man, because it's like, when you're doing a video, the focus is on something else. It's on your subject. It's on your location. It's on the music. There's so many different aspects to distract. But a book, man, that's your words. That's all you. That's like standing on stage with a spotlight on you, and people are hanging on to your every word and listening to what you have to say. That's a different level of pressure with creating and putting yourself out there for the world, man. So it's exciting. And then just to have all the amazing feedback so far every day of people saying, yo, this hit right home for me. You were talking right to me. This is exactly what I needed to hear at exactly the right moment. So it's just a great validation, because I do feel like it was something that the Lord led me to do. So just to see it hit into the world and see it doing what it's doing, it's just that validation and that confirmation of like, man, yes, I did hear the Lord, and this was something that he led me to do. And it's helping out so many people, because I set out, and of course I have all my crazy sales goals and the things that I want to see accomplished. I want to be a New York Times bestseller. I said it when I set out to write it, I said, Whether this sells 1 or 1 million, I want to help people. I want people to experience what I'm experiencing. I want people to grow the way that I've grown. I want people to experience the abundance that I've been able to experience and be paid what they deserve for their value. So as long as it helps people, I'm okay with that.
So, hey, I'm not a videographer. So as I look at this book, and I haven't read it, I've just read some of the reviews and things that you posted about this, but this is specifically for your videography, photography type folks out there, or am I wrong?
No, it's for everybody, man. It's for this book has helped personal trainers. This book has helped hairstylists. This book has helped, people who are personal chefs, like everything like this. I mean, I even talk about like negotiating my salary with the Cowboys. So it's people who are even working a 9-to-5 job, whatever it is. It tells you how to look at your skills and look at your resume every year and see how your skills are growing and how you should be negotiating your salary, even if you're working a 9-to-5 job. So everybody can benefit from knowing their value and knowing how to communicate and stand on that value. So yes, it is. A lot of my experiences and stories are from video production and photography, but it can really be applied to a lot of situations.
Gotcha. So I almost want to read this as how to confidently price your value, if you will.
Exactly.
It's a service market that we're really offering a service to people.
Absolutely. 100%. 100%. Everybody's doing, even if you're at your job, doing whatever, you're still providing that company some sort of value, that if you were to walk out that door, would they be able to get somebody else in that seat? Yes. But what's going to change? Is that person going to be more efficient? Is that person and the company, they're not looking at those metrics, because again, when it becomes an assembly line, it's just like, okay, cool, we lost it. So they're not looking at it. So it's your job. There's something that I say in the value. I say, you hold all the power. It's kind of like when Tony Stark gave Spider-Man the glasses and Spider-Man. And it's like, you hold that power, but you can give it away to somebody like he gave it away to Mysterio, and look at how the chaos ensued. It's the same thing. When you just say, you know what, this is the salary that they're offering. Hang on 1 second. Battery ended. Are you able to, was it going to kill it if we cut and if I change this battery real quick?
Yeah, we're cool. Change it real quick. Yeah, when you got all this expensive video equipment, man, it sure takes a drain on the battery, huh?
Nah, seriously, yeah, man. So there's a way to plug in, but I'm using the USB-C to connect to the camera. But yeah, we could just pick it up where kind of I was saying, so basically, man, like I think that it's always up to us. There's the responsibility of whoever it is. It's up to us. You don't. I'll briefly, there's a story that I write about in the book, or an example, I guess I give you. I say, if you were to walk into a Lamborghini dealership and, let's say you were like, okay, I want to buy a Lamborghini, and you know exactly how much it costs to the penny, and you save up and you got your bag full of cash and you walk into the Lamborghini dealership and you're like, I want that one. I know how much it costs with tax, title, license, all this stuff. And then the salesperson says, okay, great. But you're in luck because today we're having this special where you can name your own price for this Lamborghini. What's it worth to you? You think you're going to look at your bag of $468,000, $832.97 and say, well, here you go. I saved all this money. I'm going to pay you. Or are you going to say, it's worth $1 to me, and then take your money, put it in the bank, and drive off with your Lamborghini? And I tell that example because people are inherently wired to get a deal. They're inherently no matter what. You still think that Lamborghini is a nice car, but if you get an opportunity to haggle the price down, you're going to haggle that price down. Everybody wants a good deal, and it's the same way when you're doing work for people. They can respect your talent and respect your gifts and respect what you bring to the table, but they still got a company and a business to run. So they're going to think about it in the most cost-effective way. It's on you to bring that situation to them. And the studies show, because I literally just posted about it the other day and I wrote about it in the book, but there's a research that was done that says only 79%, I think 79% of people negotiate their salary when they're either in a job or they're taking a job. Only 79% of people don't negotiate their salary. Sorry. That means that there's more than half of people who are just saying, if I go in for a job, I'm just taking whatever they give me. I'm not even looking at it and saying, you know what? I understand you guys are saying that this salary is $80,000, but I not only have my degree that you're requiring, but I have this certification. I have this level of experience. My last company, I was able to increase their productivity by 20%. Whatever it is, people aren't even taking stock. They're just like, oh, the job says 80,000. I'm making 80,000. And then you turn around and you talk to somebody else at another company and they're like, oh, shoot, I'm doing the same job and I'm getting paid 115. And you're like, oh, guess what you can't do? You can't go in there 2 weeks into your job and say, hey, guys, I made a mistake. I really should be getting paid 115,000. And you may get raises and bonuses, all of that stuff, but it's going to be a minimal amount, than if you set in. And again, kind of like me with the church, I had to go and find another company to get my value, because it's hard once you get in that door and people know when they know what they can get you for, it's hard for you to change that perception. So it's very, very important, man. It's for everybody. It's for everybody to take stock of what they're bringing to the table, realize how valuable they are, and then put the right number on that.
Yeah, man, I think just the kind of vibe that I'm getting from you, one thing that I think that you've grown a lot in and what you're passing that growth on, as I hear, is I've grown in confidence. And what I'm passing on to people is the confidence to go out and have the conversations that I once wasn't able to do.
Yep, absolutely. Yep. First chapter of the book is Know Your Worth. And I tell people that this is important. This is the foundation to the house that we're building. As you know, I'm not a contractor. I'm not a builder. But I know enough to know that when I was building my house, they said, listen, your foundation is everything. If your foundation cracks, it leads to all sorts of other problems in your house. Your walls start cracking, your ceiling starts sagging, your windows could break. I mean, foundation is important. And so I tell people, understanding your value, understanding your worth, getting rid of imposter syndrome, getting rid of that mindset that says, oh, that's great, I understand that, but nobody'd ever pay me that much. Or I'm not worth that much. Or I don't think I should be charging that much. My work's not that good. I tell them, if you can't get this, then put the book down. I'll give you a refund. Because at the end of the day, if you don't have that mindset, that's why it's confidently it's called Money Talks, how to confidently price your work. I could have just called it Money Talks, how to price your work. Confidence is the key to it all. If you don't have that confidence, nobody else will.
That's the truth. That's the truth. So, where do I find this book? Do I got to call you? How do I get it?
Man, look, you can possibly call me, beat me if you want to reach me. Man, I'm selling this thing. I'm doing it. So I'm doing it a little bit of two ways. So I'm selling it out of my trunk, my garage, whatever you want to say. It's available on my website, kerrylofton.com. If you order it, it'll come right to my email. I got all my shipping supplies right here. I'll pack it up. I'll sign it. I'll ship it out to you. It's also available on Amazon.com. You can get it primed to you next day. It's available on Kindle as well. You can get the ebook on Amazon. Working on the audio book, because I have had people say, man, I love you, want to support you, but I'm not a reader. So I'm like, all right, cool. If you want to hear me read it to you like a nice bedtime story, we're working on the audio book that will probably be out in the next couple of months as well.
That's cool. That's cool. So a lot of times people write books, they start thinking about the next one. Have you what does the next, 2, 3, 4 years look like to you in your own vision?
Absolutely. A lot more books, man. It's funny you asked that. Literally yesterday, I sat down and started working on the notes and the outline for the next book. So, and I posted it on my story, and the support was just crazy. I got all these DMs about like, yes, we're ready for the next one. And so, cause this book's not a long read. I mean, I'm a reader, man. You can't see, but like I have so many books on my bookshelf that I've had to start like stacking them sideways and wherever. I'm a reader. I'll sit there and I'll read, but I know everybody, the most important thing was that I wanted people to get this information. I didn't want, the worst thing in the world is like when you're buried behind, like there's all this good information, but it's a 7,000 page book and you can't get through it. And then by the time you get to the end, you forgot what was in chapter 1 to apply it. And so I made sure to make it a very easy read. A lot of people have been reading it in a couple of days because I want people to get this information. So that in a sense makes it a lot easier to write more books and write more information and put it out there to people. So started the outline for the new book yesterday, got the idea, got the concept, got the title, got the idea for the cover art and all that stuff. I think that's probably going to be an early next year type of thing. We'll kind of see how the writing process goes. I think I don't want it to be as jarring as it was, as the first one was. I kind of want to take a little bit more time with that. But yeah, man, the goal is to, now that I got that first one out the way and learned and got all the kinks out. And then again, being a self-published author, I'm in control of it all. You know what I mean? I don't have some publishing company breathing down my back for deadlines or to make it a certain way or to let some editor take and destroy my voice and make it what they think it should be. So yeah, man, gonna chew away at that one, but want to continue doing this. And then it's just expanding into a lot more, just thinking of more creative ways to help my peers out, whether that's I'm offering consulting now where people can book sessions with me if you need a little bit more help. I've literally sat on Zoom calls and helped people put together client proposals and budgets to send. And it's, $50,000-$60,000 more than they thought they would be. They're like, oh, I just thought I was going to charge this much. And it's, no, you're thinking about this. And then they're sending these proposals and it's getting accepted. So it's like, what's that worth to you? You know what I'm saying? What's that worth to be able to, if you book a $50,000-$60,000 project and then, pay me for an hour at a time to sit there and just help somebody push you to say, yeah, no, you're in the right. Because that's all people want, with pricing. And that's why I'm so transparent with my pricing and what I charge and how much I'm making, because people just want to know, like, that helps with confidence too. They just want to know somebody else is doing it. And so when you get on a call and I'm like, yeah, man, no, you're absolutely right. You should be charging that much. They're like, okay, cool. I feel a little bit better about sending this email or sending this budget off. And so that's opened, that's been a door that's been open, being able to coach and consult people in career and pricing. Podcast, definitely want to start doing a podcast because there's just so much more information here and conversations. That's also why I named the book Money Talks. Is, of course, there's the old saying that, money talks and what walks, but also I want this to be open conversations. I want people to not just talk to me and say, well, what does Kerry think, but talk to each other. I'm a video producer and a photographer, and I've worked in that world, but, I'm not, a trainer or a chef or a hairstylist or whatever. So I want people to have these conversations and say, yeah, I'm charging, $250 for that hairstyle. And, somebody who's like, man, well, I've been doing this for 10 years and I'm charging 75. What needs to change? So I want to create this space where people can have these conversations and there's price transparency, because again, the companies are not going to do it. The clients are not going to do it. You know what I mean? If you come in and you undershoot, they're going to say thank you and take a vacation with the profit that they save. So,
yeah. So sounds like you got to get to Cabo here soon to finish this other book, but you've got a couple of ways people can reach out to you to hire you. They can get your book, you're offering consulting services, and you're also still doing video and photography, accurate?
Absolutely. Yep. I got a pretty crazy month here coming up with a lot of projects that I'm traveling with, Sue. So that's something that I'm still actively juggling as well.
Yeah. And if anybody's out there is looking for a video editor or a videographer or any of this stuff, call Kerry, right?
Absolutely. Yes, we will do. We could do some amazing things. I got some really exciting projects coming up. I've been doing some work with AT&T for some of their internal campaigns. Still working with like Amari Cooper. We launched his YouTube channel. Do some stuff with Dak from time to time. Lucchese. So it's great. I'm doing some stuff with the NFL and Rocket League. So it's really a lot of fun projects going on, but I'm always happy to create content with people and just take the camera out, shoot, have some fun. Like I said, be that 19-year-old kid again.
That's awesome, man. Listen, this was a pleasure getting to know you. You're a great guy, and I hope great things for the book and you, man. So like I said, just thank you so much for being here with me.
Yeah, thank you, man. I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the platform that you're giving people like myself, man. This is really something amazing that you have, and it's paying dividends, man. So I just pray that the Lord would bless you for your kindness, and your selflessness, man, to just help put other people on. Seriously,
I appreciate that. So thank you so much, man.
Yeah, thank you.